but we are aware that there are some aspects that need to be improved, and among them certainly offside.
Have you ever noticed that in the FIFA video games, offsides are decided immediately and are correct 100% of the time? It may not seem like it, but the fact that we're even capable of running a mostly realistic soccer game in FIFA without a human referee is an elephant in the room that it seems that the FIFA company has been ignoring. In this video, we're going to analyze how the FIFA company can score their refereeing goals by taking their all-knowing virtual ref and moving it to the real game. In other words,
we should take Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else!
Put simply, what I'm theorizing is that if we take the right steps, which we'll define throughout the video, we can abstract the logic out of the FIFA video game and use it for both the video game and for real life. Now, some of you skeptics may be thinking, we can do the impossible in video games, like program floating islands. So even if we can program FIFA, that doesn't mean we can translate it in real life, which is a valid point, but stick with me and we'll see shortly that it in fact does translate. Let's get started. Before we do anything else, let's start off by defining what refereeing is, and let's do it with a simple equation. Let's say referee equals information gathering plus decision making based on some rules. This, I think, is a definition that's hard to argue against. Take out the decision making and you have no rules. Take out the information and you have no reason to make decisions. We can probably break down the definitions further, but this is all we're going to need. Let's see how we can transition from a virtual ref in FIFA to a virtual ref in the real game by first isolating decision making in the equation. We'll do this specifically by looking at a part of the game where information gathering is pretty much given to us. We're going to analyze offsides in FIFA. For those of you who aren't familiar with soccer, the intuition behind the offside is that it'll prevent soccer from breaking down into a game of players just waiting in front of the opposing goalie. So let's see from a programmer's point of view how FIFA knows the information it needs to call an offside. First off, for us to even see a player on screen in the video game engine needs to know the position of the player. Conversely, a player being on screen means we have his position to the dot. Now conveniently, that's all the information we need to calculate an offside: positions. So now we can go to the next step and see how the virtual ref in FIFA does decision making. And then we'll pretty much know how FIFA codes its referee for offsides. Calculating an offside is very simple. It's a matter of comparing positions of specific players on screen. The calculation itself goes roughly as follows. We have to check if there are any players on our team who are closer to the opposition goalie than any player on the opposition is. Now there are some cases where the rules slightly change, like offsides not applying during throw-ins, but those cases are trivial to handle. So we just reason that it's easy for FIFA to both know players' positions and to calculate offsides. If you think about it, that means we have a perfect virtual ref for offsides in FIFA, which checks out with the fact that the FIFA ref is never wrong about offsides. Up until now, we've been talking about big ideas, but now let's go only one step deeper and quickly skim through ways we can code FIFA. In this example, there's clearly some code that's checking and deciding whether or not there is an offside. Now, depending on how the FIFA company designed its systems, we can even use the exact same code for FIFA to calculate offsides in real life. One elementary way FIFA can reuse code is to turn their decision-making step into a function that simply takes in a set of positions and returns whether or not a player is offside. For those of you that aren't familiar with coding, a function is used like a black box that takes in some values, does something with them, and then spits out a result. Now, whether we obtain positions realistically or virtually, all we know is that once we have them in our code, we can use the same exact function to decide whether or not something was an offside. Another more advanced and more accurate way to capture what's happening is to treat the game of soccer as an abstract class. A class in code is a grouping of distinct but related properties and functions into one entity. Think of capturing the properties of a person into a class. One property of a person is his eye color, and one of his capabilities, or functions, is eating. An abstract class is a class where some functions are not defined yet, with the intention of having them filled out by what's known as a subclass. Think of mammal as an abstract class, and think of person as a subclass of mammal. There are some things we know about all mammals that we can capture in the abstract class, such as the fact that they have hair, but there are some functions of mammals, like speaking, that differ based on each subclass. Back to FIFA. We can create an abstract class called soccer that fully defines a function for decision making, and that only partially defines a function for information gathering. Now it's up to the subclasses to figure out how exactly they're going to gather the information they need. In the case of FIFA, all the information will come from the game engine somehow. In the case of real life, we're going to have to come up with some creative ways to get the information we need. Don't worry about remembering all the details I just mentioned. What really matters is how we can use abstract classes. The benefit of going this route is that we can take the literal same game engine that runs the FIFA video game and use it to run real games by calling the same functions that we know exist across both of the instances. The cool thing is when I say the same game engine, I mean the same lines of code and the same GitHub repo type of same. So we just discussed some ways we can reuse code from the FIFA virtual ref on the real game for decision making. Now all we have to do is figure out how to code the information gathering. Once we do this, we should technically be capable of moving the virtual ref from FIFA to the real game. Turns out, as many of us know, including the non-soccer fans tuning in just for the World Cup, FIFA is clearly capable of obtaining player positions automatically using their new semi-automated offside technology. SOAT is a new technology that's capable of tracking players and automatically drawing offside lines. Now, it's no coincidence that the first semi-automated technology FIFA is playing with is related to offsides. The offside, as we've seen, is the easiest problem to tackle in terms of decision making. SOAT works by using a machine learning model to process visual data coming from 12 cameras across the stadium, which seems to be so accurate that it enables FIFA to track players down to the limb. This seems to be working very well for offsides. However, using machine learning is a topic I'm opinionated about, and I do not like using machine learning as a first resort. In general, before resorting to machine learning models, which are very good at guessing, one should consider methods that guarantee a correct solution. Often these solutions require taking a step back and doing some extra work. For example, instead of having a machine learning model pick out the positions of players, maybe we can do something crazy like shoot out infrared beams from the ground that mold around players as players obstruct them. This would allow us to know the positions of the players versus making very good machine learning guesses. Now, if that sounds stupid, it may be, because 1, I don't know how infrared works, and 2, I'm not sure where the beams would shoot from. But that's not the point. The point is we can get information without having to guess using sensors. I don't want to spend too much time talking about specific methods of extracting information from the pitch, but the idea is that we have multiple ways to get the same information that FIFA has for granted in real life. So there we have it. We just reasoned through how we can make the real game work like FIFA by showing that we can use the same code for both FIFA and the real game, and by showing that we have good methods of getting the same information that we need for both to run. We've only done this for offsides, so to complete our analysis, we're going to have to extend this logic to apply to every situation in the game, like handballs and fouls. Although these situations are more complex than offsides, we can still give them the same treatment we gave offsides. Let's start with the handball, as I think it's the simplest rule after the offside to program. But simply, handball works as follows. If ball hits hand, and hand not attached to body, handball given. In this case, I'd imagine it's best to use a combination of visual machine learning models, as well as a sensor inside the ball which detects contact. Now for those of you that don't know, SOAT actually already uses a sensor in the ball that detects contact for offsides, so we can easily also use that for handballs. We'd use the sensor to confirm contact and machine learning model to see if the contact was on the hand. Let's also quickly look at fouls. Calculating a foul goes something like this. If the defender strips a player's possession of the ball by hitting the player before touching the ball, there's a foul. The main issue is figuring out whether or not the player was hit before the ball, not really in deciding the foul. And if you think about it, FIFA fouls can even be more accurate than real fouls because in a video game we can objectively measure the force of contact between two players. Emphasis on the word can because I'm not sure if FIFA even does this, but at least it's possible. On top of that, just like we've been doing throughout the entire video, we can do the same thing using sensors and machine learning and capture the force of impact between players, so we can actually make fouls even more accurate if we use sensors. With that, we can say our analysis is complete. We're technically capable of replacing referees by taking FIFA's virtual ref and putting it in the real game. If you guys aren't convinced by this analysis, let me know in the comments and we can discuss. Okay, so now that we're done thinking through the technicalities, there are a bunch of other details, like ethical concerns, that I know are on everyone's mind. I haven't really sat and thought through the ethical concerns of taking the jobs away from referees, but at the moment, my opinion is that there are probably lots of other jobs related to refereeing that refs can take up if they were replaced by such a computer system. Whether that be making sure the computer system doesn't break, or even tweaking the parameters of machine learning models used for extracting information from the video feed. Maybe we can even turn refereeing into a data science job. There's also one more detail I know everyone's wrestling with, and that's whether or not we even want perfect accuracy. For example, from my point of view, the offside call against Lautaro Martinez during Argentina's match with Saudi Arabia wasn't really much of an unfair advantage, so I think that even though it was correct, the pixel perfect SOAT decision was just annoying. But maybe that's just me being biased toward Argentina because I want Messi to win the World Cup. This conflict is easy to deal with though. We can create an artificial randomness in our code by simply adding an extra coin flip, so to speak, before some decisions. In conclusion, the FIFA company is closer to virtual refereeing than it appears that they even know, and the sheer existence of the FIFA video game is evidence of this. They would just need to decide on consistent methods of feeding the FIFA game engine data from the real game. And with that, I'm going to end the video. Make sure to share this with your friends and to share your thoughts in the comments. To all my Messi fans out there, let's hope he wins this year's World Cup.